Alright guys, in this video I'm going to take you through how I draw a mouth. What you're going to see I do first here, I try to think about the structure of what you're actually seeing with the lips. I usually set that up with a few ovals, and a little circle there for the dip in the upper lip, 2 long ovals on the top, 2 long ovals on the bottom, and that really defines the overall structure of what you're going to end up drawing. At this point, what you can do to see how these become the lips is you can just outline, kind of join them together, outline the outer edges of the ovals, a little bit of an extension for the corners of the mouth, and to show the little dip on the top of the upper lip. It really depends on the mouth you're drawing, because some mouths don't really have a definition between those 2 ovals on the bottom. They usually appear as 1 oval, but this really depends on the mouth you're looking at. Now I'm starting to block in areas where I'm noticing some shadows with the corners of the mouth, where the lips really tie into the cheeks. You'll see some shadows. You'll see the area above that little dip in the upper lip. I think it's called the philtrum. And then below the bottom lip, there's a lot of shadow there because the bottom lip is protruding over that part of the mouth. So you've got a shadow there always between the bottom lip and the chin. And the curves here that I'm drawing are really designed to suggest the form of the lips and the roundness of them. When you're shading it, this is going to come in handy because you'll start to realize that the upper lip, as it curves in, is going to get hidden in shadow a lot. But the bottom lip, from the traditional light sources that come from above, the bottom lip is going to catch a lot of highlight. And you can see it in the picture that I'll be referencing on the left there, the color photo there. The upper lip hides in shadow a lot, and the bottom lip catches a lot of the light source, so there's a very pronounced highlight there. So now hopefully you understand a little bit about what goes through my mind when I'm looking at a mouth getting ready to draw it, to try to understand the structure of everything underneath, and it really makes shading and drawing in general a lot easier. So a good tip for drawing anything when you're drawing from a photo reference is to try to keep your drawing as close to the reference as possible. It stops you from having to readjust, to move, to see it, to look back and forth. You can't always do it as closely as you see here, but the closer you can get it, the better. It'll really help you stay a lot more accurate. I know it's kind of hard to see here, but I'm laying out the ovals just like I did when I was discussing the form of everything. I'm trying to adjust the shape of the ovals based on the mouth that you're actually seeing here. So some of the ovals are a little thicker, a little bit more full, and that's really going to help draw this specific mouth as opposed to just a mouth in general. Now the video is going to speed up. You can watch how I turn the ovals into what I see as the lips here in this picture. And once I have everything outlined, I'll start to lay in the first layers of shadow, just really in general. Is this lip light or dark? I'm not really looking for the specific areas of highlight and shadow. I'm just kind of squinting my eyes and trying to block things in. The upper lip is generally darker than the bottom lip, so I'm trying to lay those shades in. The corners of the mouth have shadow, below the bottom lip has shadow. I'm trying to block all of those in, and I'll get more specific as it goes. Once I've got that first light layer of shadows in, and I've smudged them a little bit, that's when I start to really get a little more specific with the shading and comparing values and shades, right? Because light and dark is a really general thing, and it really only is a result of you comparing shadows and highlights to each other, comparing darker shadows to lighter shadows, etc. So when you're looking at the upper lip and you notice that in general it's darker, but then you look at the corners and you see they're even darker than the lip in general. So you've got to start getting a little more specific, putting a little more pressure in certain areas with your pencil. If you need to grip a little more tightly towards the tip of the pencil so that you can get a little more specific and a little darker with your shadows, then do that. But the idea is that we're going from general to specific, kind of the idea of going from blurry to focused. And it's only really now that I'm starting to even think about getting more control of the pencil to put some more defined edges in. And part of that has to do with the fact that at this point I'm still not even really confident that what I'm drawing is exactly what I'm looking at. So once I feel that the shapes are what they're supposed to be, that the shades in general are laid out the right way, that's when I'll start to get a little more control, put a little more pressure on, and define that little open space between the lips. And in the corners, I'll start to define the edges there because they are really dark. There's a lot of really dark spots there that you want to wait until you're pretty confident in the shapes of everything before you lay those in. And one of the biggest mistakes people will make is that they'll really define the edge of the lips a little too strongly, and it really makes the lips look like instead of being part of the face overall, they're really just stuck on the front of the face, and that's not true. The way the lips go into the corners and the way the shading goes from the corner of the mouth into the lips, it's really just a slightly different coloration. So that's what you're looking for. The reason you see the lips is because it's not because there's a really strong edge to them. It's because the color is changed and the shading changes. So you've got to really observe that. And you can see here I'm starting to add shading around the mouth because, like we said with the nose demonstration, there's really no end. You can go from the mouth now, and you can travel up to the nose. You can go from the bottom of the bottom lip and travel down to the chin. You really can work your way around the face from any of these features. So for this demo, I'm going to stop it a little bit away from the outside edges of the lips here, but if I'm drawing an entire face, you can bounce back and forth a lot. You can go from the mouth to the nose to the eyes and just keep working in general. It really does help because if you're working on the mouth and the nose and the eyes a little bit at a time, you'll start to build more confidence with the relationships of all of them instead of trying to spend hours on the mouth only to realize that it was a little too far from the nose, and then you've got to redo everything. So you work little by little, general to specific, light to dark, and you'll end up with a drawing that you can feel a little more confident in. So I'm going to shut up here for a little while and let you watch the drawing take shape. I'll chime in again when you see the details and lines and highlights start to develop on that bottom lip. So this is a good part here for me to remind you about using the eraser end of your pencil too. It's really important that you don't forget about it because a lot of times, and you can see it here happen a bunch of times in the next minute or so, you're going to see me use the eraser to pull out some highlights and also just to work highlights back into areas that I might have overshaded. So you're going to notice on the bottom lip, as I try to get that really bright highlight that's happening there, that I start to realize that the lip in general is just too bright to show the highlights. So there I go, shading it in a little bit more so that when I pull the highlights out, it's got something to contrast to. Because if there's nothing there to contrast the highlight to, then the highlight doesn't show up. Right? You only see the light because of the dark. Oof, that was pretty deep. I understand if you need a minute to process that. Now you'll notice, because I've darkened the bottom lip, that the upper lip doesn't contrast as much anymore. So I've got to go back and redefine the darks there. It's not because they magically disappeared, it's because when I brought the darkness of the bottom lip, the value of the bottom lip, a little bit darker, then the upper lip needed to get even darker than that, because shading and drawing is all about comparing. It's all about seeing the differences between what you're trying to draw and what you're actually drawing. So if you pay attention to that, you'll be able to get it as realistic as possible. So the drawing's not totally done, but I'm gonna let you watch the rest of this drawing happen without me talking, before you realize I really have no idea what I'm talking about. All right, enjoy. Hopefully it helped you a little bit.